Hi everybody, great to be here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to communicate in emojis. I was very impressed by that. I don't have an emoji skill, but my 8-year-old daughter, Sophie, actually does. I'm going to start with a story of someone who uses a lot of emojis, and that's my daughter. Ever since she was really young, I'm talking 2 or 3, she's had a love of animals. And she would love to be a vet when she grows up. This is her passion. She's really inspired by animals and caring for them. And as you can see, we have a pet dog and a cat, Angus and Hamish, and she's dying for a pony. She said to me about a year ago, "Hey Dad, what do I need to do to be a vet?" And I contemplated being 8 and now 48 and thinking about how skills have changed. And I really couldn't fathom what it would be like in another 20, 30, 40 years of what veterinary science will bring. But there was something that was key that I shared with her. Sophie, imagine a time where you're with a patient, a dog or a cat, it's very sick, and unfortunately that dog may need to be put to sleep. How would you deal with its owners and its family? Things like compassion, resilience, dealing with ambiguity, the human skills are the things that you really need to double down on. Being a good person, being kind, some of our family values. Continue on that trajectory and you'll make an awesome vet. So that's what we focus on. But who can imagine what are the skills of the future? I'm very privileged that I work for a company called LinkedIn. We've got a really good snapshot of what's coming. We have over 650 million members on the platform, and we actually track their moves around the skills they're learning, the jobs they're moving into. We've got 1.3 trillion exabytes of data that moves around on a daily basis that we get to play with to really start predicting those trends. So, we know that on the World Economic Forum's latest report that 65% of jobs for the next generation don't even exist today. How do you predict it? We're gonna have a bit of fun with you. Who likes a game? Yep, okay, great. So let's actually start thinking about, all right, what are these new industries that are coming up? So who's ever heard here of the commercial drone industry? Only started existing in the last 5 years, about a quarter of the audience. Who wants to be an environmental minimizer? Has anybody any idea what that actually is? Or a drone docking designer and engineer? There's new roles in industries that are only appearing over the last couple of years. So imagine the new industries that are coming. 3D printing. You can print a house. You can print an organ. It's pretty amazing how we can save lives now. The world is changing, and with that, new roles are appearing and new skills are being developed to do exactly that same thing. I love the three-dimensionalists. I kind of feel like when I was in university, I was doing three-dimensionaling, but that's another story altogether. Let's move on to cryptocurrencies. So, you'd have to be laying underneath a rock not to actually read in the press how this whole industry is appearing, and people are concerned. It's turning the financial systems upside down. I know I'm concerned. Do I get on the boat? Do I not? Do I invest? What do I do? So who do I turn to? Maybe a cryptocurrency theorist and an evangelist. Has anybody heard of that role before? No, not really. And then agriculture. Now this is one industry that once upon a time was planting seeds, having crops, thinking about the cows and the sheep that you had out in your paddock. That industry is changing so radically through automation and technology. And bio-meat factory engineers. It's astounding, isn't it? And molecular gastronomists. So just a curiosity from me up here on the stage and looking back at you, who would have actually heard about let's take a poll actually, I want hands. If you've actually heard of 10 of those roles, put your hands up. Okay, I've got about half a dozen hands. And this is the future. These are the roles that we're actually seeing appear on our platform. And do you feel suitably geared up for them? Well, I can tell you what, most of the world don't. So 42% of current and past graduates feel their degree requires transformation to keep pace. Education, vocation, is being turned on its head because no one can keep up with the pace of the new jobs that are created by technology. It's an amazing world we live in. It's also hugely disruptive. So how do you keep up? Well, we're fast shifting into the 4th industrial revolution. I don't know if you know Heather McGowan. She's a future of work strategist. I love her dearly. She's amazing. been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with her. And I love how she has this theory in regards to when we were at university, at school, you learnt to work. The world's changed. You have to work to learn. No longer do you go and get a university degree and you stop learning. And that's your career for life. Life is a lifelong journey exercise. I know that we all hear about this and you read about this, and hopefully in your organizations or at university you're being lectured around this. But you really need to embrace it, because as you saw in the roles before that I highlighted to you, we can't even predict what's next. I've got a little bit of an idea and I'll share some more with you very shortly. So we're somewhere in the middle here, and what I ask all of you is really embrace this and to change your mindset, to work to learn, that every day is a learning adventure, that you're continually learning new skills to A, get a competitive advantage, B, make sure that as we're seeing vocational displacement, we can actually help those actually reskill and get new jobs. And ultimately, it's all being fueled by technology innovation. So how do you navigate all of this? It's the 1.5 trillion exabyte question. So there's two ways you can actually do this, and some advice that I'll give you and some things I'll share with you. One is a very data and insights-centered approach. If I think about the great work that RMIT are doing around partnering with different vocations and different organizations, they're really getting data from a multitude of sources to start predicting what is the future of work and the future of education. I'll talk more about that in a moment. The second is around a human-centered approach. You may ask what that is. I'll cover it in a moment, but ultimately we speak about human skills and we talk about human-centered approaches. That's what comes from the heart and the mind that computers and data and insights can't predict. So let's take it away and let's talk about ecosystems. So at LinkedIn, as I mentioned, we have over 650 million members, growing 3 members per second. We have the great privilege of looking at that data and assessing what's next. And essentially, we create an ecosystem. And I'm going to talk specifically around learning here, because obviously we're talking about skills today, and I thought it would be very interesting for you. So skills, courses, instructors, learners, admins, companies, government, and then higher education, like RMIT, coming together to really build a plethora of information that helps us actually interpret what's happening in the world. So whether it's the skills that are being produced and new skills on a daily basis, whether it's the jobs, whether it's the type of courses that are being created on the platform like ours at LinkedIn, or the curriculum that's being created by RMIT and other universities around the world, what instructors are actually instructing about. And then on our platform, instructors have the opportunity through social mechanisms to actually talk on the platform, so via chat, so lots of emojis hopefully, with their learners to ask questions. That becomes social, it's viral, and what happens with all that data is we understand what people are concerned about, what they love, what they're focused on, what they're driving forward with, the skills that they're learning, and so forth. And with that data creates great insights. And what do we do with insights? We start to predict. And having a data-centered approach with great insights really allows us to actually start thinking about that future of work, those future of skills that will really bring things together, so therefore we can actually create a better world. The second area I'm going to harness on is a human-centered approach. So when I actually start thinking about a human-centered approach, I really look at 4 core areas, and I really want us to harness down on a couple of these. One is accessibility and availability. So earlier I shared with you that, hey, once upon a time, you got a degree, you went and learned, and then you went and worked. Life's changed, and it's changing rapidly by the second. Accessibility and availability are key. So as an organization, as an education institute, as an individual, how do you actually ensure that you've got accessibility when you need it? We talk about micro-credentialing, we actually talk about snippets of information that you need at a point in time that you may need to discard. I often say the biggest learning adventure is actually unlearning. It's getting rid of the biases that you actually have so you can learn new things. And having accessibility and availability when and where you need it is important. You could be on the bus here today to learn a new skill because you're actually meeting with somebody for an interview after this. Or it could be that you're working on a large project and there's one particular skill that you actually need and then you're going to discard of that. It could be that, hey, the information you have is outdated, and for you to actually be relevant again in the industry, I need to learn those new skills. But learning when and where you need it. Marketing. So this is more applied around education institutes and also organizations. The world of learning has changed. And acting like a marketer in a university or as an organization is important to reach your audiences and attract them. But it's not just about attraction, it's feeding them the information they need at a particular point in time. It could be, say, for example, like on LinkedIn Learning, where we actually feed the relevant courses to individuals on the platform when they're actually looking at different types of content and marketing to them to say, hey, this may be something that you actually need. It could be the same whether you're on the RMIT website or it could be whether you're on the RMIT learning portal, that at that just in time, you're actually driving the right content to those individuals, so therefore they're getting what they need and that they want to learn. Because let's face it, we all have conflicting priorities. And as an organization and a learning institute, the ability to market at the right time to ensure that it surfaces when that person needs is super important. Tribes and social. Who doesn't want to be part of a tribe? If you think back to the elders, past and present, of this land today, they worked in tribes. They're on the land in tribes. And they acted in tribes to make sure that they could support one another. Tribes are in the heart of the human. And it's no different today in the way of learning and in the way of technology. We work as tribes. We learn as tribes best. So how do you actually create a tribe and a social experience to make sure that you can come together and learn, that you can share, that you can actually share those experiences and collaborate? Because not everybody learns by reading a textbook or watching a video. They need to communicate, they need to ask questions. And providing a portal or platform is important. And as a learner, how are you reaching out to others to create those tribes to become better? And then finally, around purpose. Life has changed. I love millennial and the Gen Zs coming up. All the studies and research, and also my individual dealings with them in the workforce, is they really love to work around purpose. They're much more purpose-driven than us Gen Xers, or the baby boomers as well. And it's actually a gift to society because a lot of, I guess, the challenges that we had in our generation, they're learning from. So the ability to actually help them work with purpose and align to their purpose is going to be paramount to help them with continuous learning. Just going to switch gears because I guess it wouldn't be any LinkedIn presentation if I didn't actually share some data and insights, and I know that's what you're all looking for. So just really quickly, the top 5 emerging jobs in Australia. Who would have thought the customer success manager was the top emerging job? The reason for this is because this rise of technology and the 4th industrial revolution, people don't know how to use it. They need to be instructed. We work in tribes, we like to learn from each other. So these roles are paramount to ensure that the technology that's being produced and the change that we're seeing is fueled. And the other 4, you're probably not surprised, are hugely technology related and very much in demand in Australia. I'm also going to share with you the most demand skills for 2019 as well. So if you're a university student here today, this is what I'd be focused on if you want to get a great job and if you want to be relevant. If you're actually from industry today, probably not a surprise and maybe thinking about how you reskill your workforce around these. I'm going to start with human skills because what's more important than human skills? I shared the story about Sophie, my daughter. If she carries through with these human skills, she's going to be very viable in tomorrow's workforce. Some call them soft skills. I personally prefer calling them human skills. Creativity, persuasion, collaboration, no surprises up there. I think what's fascinating though is when we start looking at hard skills or more technical skills, 8 of them are technical, but 2 are very people orientated. Sales leadership and people management. And this really relates back to that whole human skill element that no matter what industry you're in, people are always going to have to sell and create revenue for an organization. And people leadership is the core of who we are so we can align to the purpose that we spoke before, work in tribes and so forth. So a little bit of some data that I thought I'd share with you today. So on that note, 3 core areas maybe to take away. One is that the world has changed. We now work to learn. Gone are the days you get a university education and then you go and work and that's it. Life is a lifelong learning journey. The second, and data and insights are your friend. If you're scared of data and insights, unfortunately, you're not going to traject in the future. And as an organization or a learning institute, how are you truly harnessing those data and insights to actually help propel your institute or your organization forward? And finally, take a human-centered approach. We're all people. Think about the tribes, the purpose that you work in, and how we bring people together. So on that note, thank you so much for having me today. It's been such a pleasure to be here in this theatre, and I'm going to hand back over to Julie. Thank you.